All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are at week 2, and I am really excited because I've started to see some progress in the Facebook group, and I am ready to dive in and just get going. Now, this week is cutting, so if you get overwhelmed, if life gets in the way, we totally understand. You've got plenty of time to get your strips cut. This week is just dedicated to cutting. We won't start talking about the blocks until next week when we audition and start doing that in week 3. Now, if you've got limited space, if you want to cut and organize a little bit at a time, week 2 and week 3 do kind of go hand in hand. So you can always go that route. Just kind of feel it out and see how it goes. Now, I've got my strips. I've got my block cutting template. I've got my rotary and my ruler. So even though we are cutting smaller sections from our width of fabric, I'm using a ruler large enough that I can get the dimensions to cut using my ruler instead of my mat. And the largest piece we have is 15.5. You certainly can use a ruler, but you will need to get your cutting that large enough for that length. First thing, you are going to want to press your strips lightly. It's going to take out the crease. A lot of these have been folded up or rolled. It'll help you find if you need to do any adjusting depending on if it's totally straight up grain, or if your strips have a direction or a plaid, or if you want to fussy cut anything. You can take a look at that while you're pressing to get that taken care of and set that aside. If there are any issues, you can certainly cut your strip in a different order than is on your cutting template. Just take a look and see. You can always scoot some things down. You've got that extra piece at the end, so you could certainly have a little bit of adjustment there. Also, with the fussy cutting, if there was it's not a huge piece, but if you did want to showcase something, you can certainly work around that. You can set that aside, and we'll take a look at that when we get started cutting. Now, we've had some discussion in the Facebook group about using fat quarters or scraps, and you can absolutely use a fat quarter. You'll have some more leftovers than you would if you use a strip. If you don't want to have scraps, you can, if you don't want to have extra from your fat quarter, you can duplicate sections. You can certainly get more than one section from that fat quarter. You wouldn't need 62 of them. Now, I have not done a layout for a fat quarter only because we've done the template strip. We can get everything kind of in that 6.5 inch section. I just found it easier to use the strip. Also, if you are using scraps and do not have the 5.25 by 15.5 scrap piece, you can actually use a 10.5 by 7.75. We'll take a look at that when we get to the cutting sections. We can move some things around a little bit, so if that works better for you. So my strips are pressed. I've got my tools handy. We're going to cut the first strip. After you get the first one cut, if you want to save time, you can cut 2 or 3 at a time. Absolutely, be my guest. Remember, the pieces are oversized for the foundation paper by about 1/2 inch all the way around. So if it's not exact, if you've got them stacked, you can still work with that on the foundation paper. If you are doing a fussy cut or a plaid or a directional, set that piece aside so that you can cut those sections individually. It takes a little bit extra care with those to make sure we really get the pieces that we want. So I've got my template up here, up above where I'm going to be cutting, so I can see what sizes I need to cut. And we'll go through each section for this first strip. We had some discussion in the group. There's a typo in the download directions when you make your template. The individual cut sizes on page 2 say 2.25, but the diagram with the full layout says 2.5. Now, either of those sizes will work. The 2.25 gets you exactly the width that you need for that center section. So if you if you need a little bit of wiggle room, go ahead and cut it at the 2.5. Now, it is totally up to you if you want to subcut each section all at once, or if you want to wait until you've selected the 5 prints for each block, or if you want to wait until you're ready to sew each block to do the subcuts. This is totally up to you. I'm going to subcut today just to kind of show you the cutting. But this is where you can kind of meld into the auditioning process for the blocks. If you have not subcut your sections down, it is easier to quickly pick and put back and find the fabric you want for each block. Now, yesterday I did do several sections and subcut them down when we were getting ready for the video, and it was difficult for me to keep all four of those pieces together. Also, I have seen that several of us have a helper that may or may not have a fun time with us throwing smaller sections down into the floor. So if you prefer to keep the sections all one piece before subcutting, feel free. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to make quick work of this week. So again, if you want to kind of meld and pick some of those fabrics out, absolutely do so. Do make sure to keep your cutting template handy so we can make sure that we get the correct subcuts for each section. The amount of cutting and subcutting you do may also depend on how you want to see the block when we're picking the fabrics. If you just want a general idea to just sort of grab prints and put them together, you can leave them whole. If you prefer to lay each block out, because they do sometimes look differently when you get the fabrics stacked in each section, so that you can actually see the layout, see the entire thing before you decide. You can also you can do the subcutting before. Sometimes it does look different when you've got it laid out like the actual block and not just stacked, but this is totally your preference. We want this to be fun. We don't want to stress you out over trying to teach you a new way to work. This is not some sort of crazy sewing regime. We just want to have fun. We want to pick fabrics, and you know what works for you when you are prepping for a project. So feel free to do either way with that. So let's take a look at the cutting and the subcutting. Then we'll jump back a little bit to organizing those. So after you've pressed your strip, you are going to want to square this down to 6 1/4. So I just folded mine in half, line it up, and then you'll square that up. You will open it back up to cut each section. So section 1 is not subcut, so that's easy peasy. And again, either 2 1/4 or 2 1/2 works, whichever you prefer. Now section 2, 4 by 6 1/4, and then you're going to cut from corner to corner here, and then the opposite corner here and here again. Now section 3 is 5 3/4 by 6 1/4. Now please double check the width and the length of this section before you cut, because there's only a 1/2 inch difference between the width and the length of this. And if that first cut is across the wrong side, your fabric pieces will be the wrong size as well. You might be able to squeeze it into that section on the foundation paper, but if you have a directional, it's certainly gonna throw that piece off. The easiest way to check that piece is to lay it right on your cutting template so you can see which way the first cut is going to go. We can actually fold this in half if we don't want to keep trying to get that 3 1/8. We can cut it along the fold, and then we only have to cut it once from this corner to this corner. Please do not make the first cut and then open it up and move it around and try to relay it or somehow. You have to keep it folded in half. You need right sides together to get those 4 triangles to be the right size. So here are those 4 pieces. Now section 4 is 6 1/4 by 8 1/2, and we're going to cut it the same way that we cut section 2, just from corner here to here and here to here. And then section 5 is 5 1/4 by 15 1/2. And here is where you can see if you're using scraps and don't have that long of a piece, the first cut that we're going to do is right on that section there. It divides it into 2 pieces that we could actually take that and move it here. That would get you 10.5 by 7 3/4, and you can actually cut it the same as we did section number 3, from corner here and here, and then out here and here. If you're using the full piece, we could also fold it in half, cut it on the fold, and then cut it diagonally from corner to corner. So that's all our sections. Easy peasy. We've made it through all of the pieces on our template. I've got each section then after that just kind of stacked in order. We've got all of our sections stacked together. If you want to start thinking about what fabrics you like together, be my guest. Like I said, I actually started auditioning some prints last night. I actually got a few blocks put together, guys. I was really excited so I could get myself back in the mode. It's been a while since we've done the Wensleydale block. I just wanted to remember kind of the process for getting everything cut and subcut and how to trim it, so that next week when we do our when we do the block and the cutting, I'll hopefully have a little bit better instructions for you guys then. But hopefully the cutting directions that we have today, and again, it's quick and easy. There's not a lot to it. The only part that that you'll really need to focus on is just staying organized, keeping your sections stacked together. If you do any subcutting, I recommend putting those either in a baggie together or with the same section of it, just to stay organized and keep organized. But until then, we will till next week, we'll leave you guys with a few of the blocks that we got put together. I'm really excited how the tilde is going to turn out on this, and each block that I pull up. Last night I didn't have everything cut. I did want to save some strips for today and for our live on Sunday. So these are not super matchy. They're very, very mismatched. They're very much thrown together, and everything so far is looking really, really nice. I'm very excited. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be bright. I thought it was going to be a little more muted when we rolled everything up together on our the roll that we started doing. It looked a little more dark and moody, but the blocks themselves look pretty bright and exciting. So I'm going to have fun. So until next week, guys, hang in there, get all those cutting done. Make sure to keep your snack handy and your blades sharp. And we'll see you later. Bye.